my dad left when my mom was pregnant for me.
Oh.
So I jumped into the world with just an only mom. She lived with her parents. Then when I was 5 years old, they both died in a plane crash. So
Your grandparents?
yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
They owned a mobile home place in the middle of Michigan. And then we were up in the Upper Peninsula, so that's how they would commute back and forth just to make sure that their employees were doing what they had to do. Well, one night they didn't have the towers lit, so their Cessna hit the towers and they died.
Oh wow.
Well, that turned everything upside down. And back when we were young, as a kid, you don't have a voice. You're not allowed to grieve.
Yeah.
It's not about you. Stay quiet, get out of the way, right? Well, my whole life was basically bouncing around. And I love my mom to death. Not speaking ill of her, but when you've had nothing but changes of houses, house every less than a year, you'd be in a house, varying boyfriends, husbands, whatever else, like the list is too long. And some of them were very abusive because she had two boys, we were ornery.
Yeah. I can imagine you as a little boy being ornery.
Yeah. But in those days you're ignored. You're just a kid, right?
Yeah.
So I lived in rural Iowa. We had moved from Michigan to Iowa when I was in second grade. There was a boyfriend that was apparently very abusive, and for some reason my brain blocked out a lot of the stuff from whatever had happened. My brother has a lot to say, but I don't know what is true. Anyway, bounced around. We had another stepdad that would, corporal punishment was everything. If I talked back, I'd be outside in negative 10 degrees in my underwear to think about it. Raking, rocks out of a driveway uphill. Iowa ditches are 10 feet deep, so if anybody understands that, it's impossible. You just have blisters on top of blisters, and that's basically, my life. If I wasn't quiet, then I was in trouble because he didn't want anything to do with me. And then we moved to Vinton, slightly larger, small town. But at that point, my brother beat me like constantly. He was my older brother, just used me as a pulpit to kind of get, friends and stuff, kind of the typical big brother, younger brother thing. Well, he didn't want to go to school there because they were rivals. And it was awesome because I finally got to understand that I had my own personality and people actually liked me for being me. And then I went in the Army, fell in love, small town boy, meets some vixen who, seems awesome. And then I went downrange. I actually had gotten an apartment off post and everything. And I was in Mojave Desert for NTC for 30 days. In that 30 days, she cheated on me with 3 dudes, sold all my stuff, ran up $35,000 worth of debt in my name. And then I got back. I was on suicide watch, and it ruined my thought process with the Army.
Why were you on suicide watch? What is that?
Well, because I felt ruined. I was a young man, when you think you've got the love of your life, and she just wrecks it.
Okay. And you told someone in authority in the Army that you were suicidal?
No. They just watch your behaviors and they keep an eye on you big time.
Yeah.
Anything short of taking up my bootlaces, they were really just watching me a lot. And then I didn't have any ambition to keep going on in the Army. It was between wars, so they didn't really. I didn't feel like they were there for me at that time.
Yeah.
And I was away from my family, away from everything, and really I just spiraled. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have. You don't talk about your feelings when this is in the late 90s.
And how old were you?
I was. When I got out of the Army, I was 20, so I went straight in after. Right after. So I only did my 2 years. They had like 2 years enlistments.
Yeah.
For 19 little tanker. Okay, you want to get out of Iowa and get a $5,000 bonus? I'm like, sweet.
Yeah.
But so I bounced around. I did a bunch of stuff. Eventually got married, had a kid. That was kind of was awesome having a kid.
Is that wife number?
It was my first wife.
Oh, your first wife. Yeah. Okay. Who racked up?
No. That was the girl that I was engaged to in the Army.
Okay.
We never went through with it because when you cheat on your guy, 3 dudes in the same battalion.
Oh.
You don't usually go back to that.
Yeah. No.
But I had I don't think I didn't file bankruptcy because I was able to get everything kind of paid off, and I worked with the debtors and stuff like that.
Good for you.
So I just kept working. But I got out of the Army, and I met a girl, and it's not the best marriage in the world. Kind of abusive, towards me. But I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like my dad. That I was there for my kids, so I, stuck it out as long as I could.
You had a boy?
I had a girl.
A girl.
Yep.
Okay.
Little Brennan.
Aw.
Yep, baby. She's getting married soon.
Oh, how exciting!
But she, we made it as long as I could.
Yeah.
When you got a person over top of you screaming and yelling, and it's just like really hostile situation. Meds are not always people's friends. You know what I mean? Yeah. We finally separated right around about 2 years before we separated. I found out that I had a surprise 11-year-old.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was quite a surprise. It was the girl from when I was in the Army. And,
the engaged girl.
Yeah. Backstory, backing up 11 years, I guess. After I got back from the Mojave Desert, she said she was pregnant. So I'm like, well, you haven't gone for 30 days, and you were with 3 other dudes that I know of. It's kind of like mice, you see one. How many more are there, right? So I asked for a paternity test. She refused. So that's usually the writing on the wall, right? So I'm like, okay. Well, then I think probably when the daughter was about maybe 6 years old, I was working at Best Buy, and she came in, and she's like, "Oh, your kid wants to get to know you." I'm like, "Well, I'm always around. Everybody knows where I'm at. And by the way, I'd like to know if that child is mine." Because she had already bounced off once. She gave me her phone number, but it was a fake phone number. So I'm like, right? So that you see the steps, right? And I'm like, okay, well, I just think in the back of my mind, I just have my child that I have, right? Well, and then so I had gone back to Iowa briefly to work with my brother at his glass company, and my mom was still here, and I said, "Hey, can you have dinner?" And so she did, and she's like, "Holy cow, that's definitely your kid." So my youngest daughter, Brennan, and I jumped in my truck, drove out here, had dinner, went back. My mind was blown. I was like, "Holy cow, now what?" Right? Because I think your whole life, you think you've got one, So we ended up moving back here. And then right about when my first wife and I were separating, that's when I got promoted at the glass company I was working at. So I doubled my wages. And then she went after me for child support. Well, when she introduced herself back into my life, she said, "I don't want anything from you because I don't want you to think you can tell me how to raise my kid." That's what she said.
Yes.
But I'm a dad, and I love being a dad.
Yeah.
So I was providing directly to my child, right? I was getting her clothes, school supplies, beauty supplies, and mother was stealing the beauty supplies. Anyway, long story. Then they went after me for child support, and so I'm going through one trauma, and I got to deal with this other thing. At the same time, Cassie doesn't want to deal with me because it's too much stress. So then now, for years I don't even have contact with my oldest daughter, right? So they got child support, plus they gave her 9 years of retro child support. Years I didn't even know I had a child, right? And I just kept plowing away. I sold everything that didn't have a debt on it and used that money to pay off other debts and then sell that stuff. So I pretty much had a house with nothing in it. And I just, it's my whole thing. I just don't look at the entirety of everything. Just keep stepping forward. Just keep trying to plow through it. Eventually I just kept paying. I'm not gonna fight the system.
Yeah.
It's stupid. Even though probably should have. My ability to be a dad was taken away from me, and that didn't seem fair. But it's also the government, so.
Right.
So eventually I left that glass company, and a buddy of mine, he was in roofing. He had gotten a huge sum of money through the 2016 hailstorms, and he wanted to invest. So he invested into my dream of owning my own glass company. So I started up the Glazers at some point.
Cool.
March of 2017. And it was great. I had such great contacts, and everything was great until I found out, that he was not the person he was, promoting himself to be. And he was he was a very sketchy character. And then also this girl I was with after my first marriage, we bought a house together and a whole bunch of crap, right? And so I had all the crap financed in my name. She had the house financed in her name. Never fought. Just one day she said, "I'm done." And I'm like, "Done with what? Done with going to work?" It's like Friday at 6 in the morning, like, and she's like, "I'm just done with this." And I'm like, "Oh crap." So now I have all the crap financed in my name. She's got the house. So I find myself leaving my own business and then being homeless.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And so when my youngest daughter was young, I truck drove kind of as a means to get excelled into the next income bracket, but also not be around her mother because that was toxic. And she was putting me into a dangerous mental situation anyway. And I eventually got out of truck driving because I just missed my daughter so much. But anyway, I still had the CDL. So I'm like, hey, it's COVID. It's March 2020. I'm going to go truck driving.
Oh, that's perfect.
So my buddy owned a trucking company. I said, "Hey, Paul, can I drive for you, please?" He's like, "Yeah, we've got a truck. Yeah, get out there." So I did Amazon loads and frozen lamb and stuff like that. And I drove for 9 months. And
living out of a truck.
Living in my truck, yeah.
Right.
And the only time I'd come home was if I was to sell something in Marketplace. And that's what I did. Just another step, and just tried to get there. And I pretty much got everything sold. And my beautiful wife, I saw on Facebook that she had a flood. We were already friends on Facebook because
You're talking about your current wife?
Yes, you got that butterfly effect. If it wouldn't mean like changing anything with my daughter, my youngest daughter, I would say don't doubt yourself. I am my biggest weakness when it comes to my own success because I analyze things to death. Like my brother's just all brass balls and I overthink everything. And I should have just done what I want to do because I watch so many terrible business owners make it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, it's not hard.
So what other advice would you give to someone who is maybe walking in something that you had experienced, whether it was the divorce or finding a kid that you didn't know was yours, that is now yours? Any wisdom you want to share?
I would say be authentic, as long as you're a good person. It's not bad for you. Be good, be authentic, be true to yourself, but nothing's going to end you except for yourself. And nobody wants to see that happen. I've seen way too many suicides. But what the person that's committing suicide doesn't realize is the trauma left behind that everybody else has to deal with forever because they don't know if they're the reason. But it's never over until you make it over. So just keep walking. I've always said, never look at the end of the mile. Just take every step, and that's all you can do.
Awesome.